They called you too emotional when you just needed a listener. And now they wonder why you're distant? Let them wonder. You're not cold. You're finally protecting what's sacred. Your spirit, your energy, your time. You spent years trying to prove your worth in rooms that only saw you as an option. But you're no one's backup plan. No one's therapist. No one's doormat. You are done. The old version of you tolerated it. This version ghosts it without warning. Because silence speaks louder than begging ever will. You know why ghosting hits different? Because it's the final move. The one where they can't argue, can't guilt you, can't drag you into one more exhausting cycle. It's not petty, it's powerful. It's saying, I don't need to win this fight, I'm just not playing anymore. When you ghost, you remove their stage. And without an audience, their performance falls flat. Let them perform for someone else. Your piece is no longer a front row seat to their drama. Cut the cord. When you stop feeding them your attention, you starve their control. That's what freedom sounds like. Quiet, unapologetic, complete. You're not obligated to stay connected to anyone who makes you feel small. That includes childhood friends, toxic lovers, fake supporters, even family. Blood doesn't excuse betrayal. History doesn't excuse pain. It's not about how long they've known you. It's about how they treat you. And if how they treat you drains you, then why are they still in your life? You've been too sentimental, holding on to ghosts of the past, hoping they'll resurrect something real. But ghosts don't come back to life. They haunt. And that's what they've been doing, haunting your peace, not anymore. Cut ties and don't look back. Look, I know you want to be kind. I know you want to keep the peace. But ask yourself this, what peace? Keeping people in your life who make you anxious, exhausted, and second-guess yourself isn't peace. It's prison. And you've been your own warden. But now you're walking free. You're not running. You're not hiding. You're ghosting with full awareness, full strength, full power. Let them call it selfish. Let them be mad. You've earned the right to protect your energy without explanation. This is your life, your rules, your timeline. And anyone who can't respect that, ghosted, they'll try to reel you back in with the same sweet poison. You've changed. Damn right I did. That's what healing looks like. They don't miss you. They miss the access. The version of you that didn't know boundaries. The one who kept giving, even when it hurt. Ghosting is the refusal to repeat old patterns. It's the revolution of the soul. You're not ignoring them. You're evolving beyond the noise. You're done offering explanations to people who never cared to understand you. You don't owe them a paragraph. A sentence. Not even a single damn word. Silence is the message. Absence is the answer. When you ghost, it's not about hate. It's about healing. Hate ties you to them. Healing disconnects you completely. You're not walking away in anger. You're floating away in peace. You're floating away like smoke rising from a fire that's finally burned out. That fire was your effort, your empathy, your willingness to keep showing up while they kept taking you for granted. And now that flame's gone. You see clearly now. Their presence was the weight. Your exit is the liberation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let the silence echo louder than their empty apologies ever did. They might say you're being dramatic, but let's be real. How many times did you minimize your pain just to keep them comfortable? You swallowed tears, sacrificed sleep, and smiled through betrayal just to keep the peace. Well, guess what? That peace was destroying you, and now you've woken up. No more watering dead plants. No more second chances for people who never gave you a first one. Your silence isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You don't need to scream to be heard. Ghosting is volume in its purest form. It's not loud, but it's final. And that's exactly what some people need to experience. You're not doing this out of pride. You're doing this out of survival. How many more pieces of yourself are you willing to trade for validation that never comes? How many more sleepless nights, fake laughs, and forced conversations do you need before you finally say, enough? This isn't bitterness. This is the boundary. You tried. God knows you tried. But some people can't love you right, and others don't want to. Either way, you're done begging. You're done hoping. You're done explaining. You're disappearing from their world so you can reappear in your own life, whole and unstoppable. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt lighter because someone wasn't there? That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Your spirit knows what your mind's been too scared to admit. Their energy was heavy. Their words were sharp. Their love came with conditions. And now you're choosing to breathe again. To move without their shadow following you. You've wasted years trying to decode their mixed signals, their silence, their passive aggression. But now, no more puzzles, no more games, just peace. And that peace comes when you finally ghost the noise. Don't let nostalgia trick you into staying connected to chaos. Just because you had good moments doesn't mean they were good for you. The same hands that held you also dropped you. The same voices that praised you also belittled you. Let that sink in. You're not walking away from love. You're walking away from confusion dressed as care. You deserve clarity, consistency, calm. And if they can't give you that, then they don't deserve to find you anymore. You're not blocking them because you're mad. You're ghosting them because you've finally chosen you over their dysfunction. They'll say you're heartless. But that's not true, is it? You had the biggest heart in the room. That's why it took you so long to walk away. You weren't cold. You were loyal. You believed in their potential, their words, their fake apologies. You saw the best in them, even when they were giving you their worst. And now they want to play the victim because you finally stopped playing the fool. No, not today. Your story doesn't end in betrayal. It starts with distance. Ghosting isn't erasing the past. It's refusing to carry it one step further. You loved hard. Now, let go harder. You know what scares them the most? Not your anger, not your tears. It's your indifference, your absence, your ability to walk away without looking back. Because they thought they had a hold on you. They thought they could treat you any type of way, and you'd always come back. But now you've gone quiet, and that silence, it's powerful. They'll stalk your page, lurk your stories, send empty hey messages at 2 a.m., but you won't reply. Not because you're bitter, but because you're finally better. Ghosting isn't revenge, it's evolution. Let them miss the version of you that no longer exists. You ever notice how life starts moving when you finally cut the wrong people loose? Doors open, peace returns. Your energy's brighter. That's not magic, it's alignment. God won't elevate you while you're still chained to betrayal. Some blessings are delayed because you're still carrying the wrong souls. You can't build a future with people who keep dragging you back to the past. That's why ghosting is necessary. Not just for peace, but for purpose. You weren't born to stay small just to make others comfortable. You were born to soar, and ghosts, they don't belong in the sky. Look, I get it. It's hard to let go, especially when you loved deep, when you poured yourself into someone who never even brought a cup. But staying connected to what hurts you isn't loyalty. It's self-sabotage. And you've done that long enough. It's time. Time to ghost the ones who laughed when you cried. The ones who only showed up when they needed something. The ones who applauded your pain but stayed silent in your success. Let them wonder where you went. Let them feel your silence. You're not running, you're rising. And the ones who truly value you, they won't need to be ghosted. They'll already be beside you. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you keep answering messages that drain you? Why you keep entertaining energy that leaves you feeling worse after every interaction? That's not connection. It's addiction to dysfunction. Ghosting isn't a punishment. It's a detox. Your soul has been whispering for you to let go, but you keep holding on, hoping they'll finally wake up. Wake up to what? To the version of you they already abused. Enough. You're not a second chance. You're a lesson. And if they refuse to learn, they lose access. Forever. That's how peace is preserved. You can't save people who enjoy being broken. You can't teach love to someone who only sees you as useful. And you definitely can't keep showing up for people who wouldn't even flinch if you vanished. That's why ghosting is necessary. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. You've tried the conversations, the late-night talks, the forgiveness, the starts and restarts. Now it's time to try silence, that uncomfortable but liberating silence where healing actually begins. You're not abandoning them, you're rescuing yourself. And maybe for the first time ever, that's exactly what you need. Ghosting doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally care about yourself enough to walk away. They say, just talk it out. But how do you talk to someone who listens just to respond, not to understand? They don't hear your pain. They hear inconvenience. They don't value your truth. They value your silence. So ghosting isn't disrespect. It's response. A final one. A nonverbal answer to all the emotional neglect you tolerated. Let them talk. Let them spin stories. You don't need to defend yourself. The best defense is absence. No reply is the reply. No presence is the power. You ever feel like your phone is a trap? Like every vibration carries anxiety? You shouldn't feel that way. Conversation should feed your spirit, not deplete it. But you've been conditioned to respond, to engage, to be available 24/7, even for people who only text when they're bored. Why? Because we've been taught that silence is rude, that distance is cold. But here's the truth. Your peace comes first. Ghosting isn't rude. It's real. You're allowed to unplug, to cut off the energy vampires, to stop replying to conversations that have no future. If they cared, they would have shown it already. You've been shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Laughing when it hurt, smiling when it burned. Showing up for people who would ghost you without hesitation. And now you feel guilty for choosing silence? Don't. Ghosting is the reset your soul has been craving. It's not about being mysterious. It's about being selective, intentional, mature. You're not playing games. You're breaking patterns. And guess what? When you start cutting off dead weight, your spirit finally breathes again. That tightness in your chest, that was their presence. Let it go. Watch what happens. People want access to you without accountability. They want the benefit of your light without the commitment to protect it. And you've been too generous, too forgiving, too available. But now you're choosing distance over dysfunction, silence over chaos, peace over performance. They'll say you've changed, that you're different. You know what? Good. That's the goal. You're no longer bending for people who wouldn't move an inch for you. No longer dancing to rhythms that disrespect your soul. You're ghosting not because you're lost, but because you're finally found. When you ghost, it's not about pretending people never existed. It's about acknowledging they no longer deserve a seat at your table. That seat was sacred, and they spilled wine on it, stomped on it, took it for granted. Now the table is yours again, and not everyone gets an invitation. You're not being extra, you're being exact, specific, intentional with your energy. And if your absence hurts them, let it. Maybe it'll teach them to stop treating people like temporary entertainment. You're not a backup. You're not a maybe. You're the main event, and this show just got private. Let's be real. Some of you have been ghosting yourselves, ignoring your needs, quieting your voice, pushing your limits just to keep toxic people comfortable. That ends now. The first ghost needs to be them, but the second must be the version of you that accepted less than you deserved. You're not that person anymore. You're rising, growing, breaking cycles, and that takes silence. You can't heal while surrounded by noise. You can't evolve with chaos in your ears. Ghost them. Ghost the old you. Let it all go. You're not missing out. You're making space for what actually matters. You know who benefits from your silence the most? You. Because in that quiet, you finally hear your own voice. Not theirs. Not society's. Not the crowd's. Yours. And that voice, it's been waiting for you. Waiting for the moment you'd realize you were always enough. Without the applause, without the text, without the attention. Ghosting isn't loneliness. It's alignment. It's where you shed the weight of everyone who couldn't carry your truth. And the real one, the ones meant to walk with you, they'll never need to be blocked to be removed. They'll remove themselves when they feel your growth. Let them gossip. Let them speculate. Let them twist the story. You're done explaining. Let your absence haunt them the same way their presence wounded you. You're not being petty. You're protecting your peace. You didn't disappear to be cruel. You disappeared to heal. And healing requires distance, requires solitude, requires silence. You tried love, you tried patience, you tried forgiveness. Now try ghosting, try choosing you. Try watching the world adjust to the version of you that finally said, no more. Because once you realize what you bring to the table, you stop begging for a seat at anyone else's. You ever stop to realize that you were the light in every room you walked into, and they still acted like they couldn't see you? You shine through their shadows, and they still turned their backs. That's not blindness, it's choice. And now, you're making one too. You're choosing to disappear from places where your presence was never valued. That's not weakness, that's power. Ghosting is your declaration. I will not sit at tables where I'm only tolerated. I will not water roots that rot my spirit. I will not beg to be seen by people who closed their eyes when I needed them most. They'll ask, why didn't you just tell me how you felt? Oh, but you did. With every ignored message, every tear behind a smile, every moment you showed up, hoping they'd finally choose you. They didn't listen then. Why would they now? So you stopped talking. You stopped explaining. You stopped fighting battles that were never yours to win. That's not giving up. That's growing up. You realize that closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. And when words fail, silence speaks louder than anything else. You ghosted not to hurt, but to heal where they refused to help. Have you ever had people who only loved the broken version of you? The one who was too tired to stand up for themselves. The one who said yes when your soul screamed no. And now that you've grown, they say, you've changed? Damn right you have. Growth is offensive to people committed to their dysfunction. They miss the version of you they could manipulate, the you that made excuses for their abuse, but that you is gone, ghosted. You've stepped into a new self, and that self doesn't apologize for healing. Let them mourn the old you. You're not attending that funeral. There comes a moment where silence becomes your sword, where not reacting becomes your revenge. Not to be cruel, but to reclaim control. Ghosting isn't about proving anything to them. It's about protecting everything in you. You're not cold. You're done. There's a difference. You gave chance after chance, and all they gave you back was disappointment. You don't need a final conversation. You don't need mutual understanding. What you need is space, peace, distance. You need to remember who you were before they convinced you to question your own worth. You know what happens when you ghost people who drained you? Your clarity comes back. Your energy returns. Your focus sharpens. Because that chaos they brought into your life, it was never yours to carry. It was their insecurity, their guilt, their pain projected onto you. You were never the problem. You were the mirror. And when you stopped reflecting their lies, they turned on you. Good. Let them. That's how you know you're doing something right. You're not here to be their emotional landfill. You're here to live. So live loud, live free, and let your absence say it all. You've been taught that silence is weakness, that walking away means you've lost. But here's the truth. They only think you lost because they can't reach you anymore, and that scares them. Your silence forces them to face the echo of their own behavior. And guess what? Most of them can't handle that. Ghosting makes them uncomfortable because it leaves them with themselves. No scapegoat, no drama, just their actions staring them in the face. Let them sit with that. You're not being cruel, you're being clear, you're being final. Some people only understand absence, let them learn. Have you noticed how much lighter your soul feels when you stop answering calls that come with weight? Conversations that feel like emotional warfare. Relationships that only survive through guilt and manipulation. That's not connection, that's captivity. And you've broken free. Ghosting isn't hiding, it's healing. It's stepping out of the prison you didn't realize you were in. And the key was always in your hand. It was called no more. Say it with your silence. Let them scream into the void. Let them chase shadows because you found your light and you're not going back. Some people need to lose you to understand what they had. And even then, it's not your responsibility to help them see it. You are not a teacher for someone else's growth. You are not a rehab center for broken souls who refuse to heal. You are not their lesson. You are your own liberation. So stop explaining your departure. Ghosting is the final act of self-respect. If they cared, they would have changed. If they loved you, they would have listened. If they valued you, they would have shown up. They didn't. And now you're gone. No revenge, no bitterness, just the sound of a door closing. For good. Sometimes ghosting isn't even about others. It's about ghosting the roles you've been playing. The fake smiles, the people-pleasing, I'm fine. You've worn too many masks for too long. And now it's time to disappear, not from the world, but from their expectations. Walk away from the you they created, the one they molded for their benefit. Let that version fade. You owe it to yourself to be real, raw, honest. Some people will never understand the strength it takes to say nothing. Let them be confused. Let them label you. You don't owe them closure. You owe yourself freedom. And finally, silence is sacred. You learn the most when you stop explaining yourself. When you pull back your energy and place it where it belongs, within. Ghosting is a sacred act, a rite of passage, a spiritual decision to reclaim your identity. You've survived betrayal, you've endured disrespect, and through it all, you stayed kind, loving, and hopeful. But now it's time for a new kind of strength, the kind that doesn't beg, the kind that doesn't chase, the kind that disappears quietly and never returns. Because sometimes the most powerful message isn't what you say, it's what you no longer respond to. You gave your all to people who gave you just enough to keep you hanging. Half truths, half effort, half love. And for what? So you could keep proving your worth to people who never deserved a seat at your table? No more. Ghosting isn't you being heartless, it's you being done. Finished begging for loyalty from the disloyal. Finished waiting on apologies that will never come. You're closing a chapter that was burning you alive. You're no longer explaining your silence. They had their chance. They blew it. Now your absence is their new reality and your new peace. You've answered every late-night call. You've picked up the pieces they kept breaking. And when you needed someone, crickets, silence vanished. But they still expected you to be their superhero. That version of you is gone, ghosted. They don't get to keep accessing the healed parts of you while refusing to acknowledge the wounds they helped create. That's not love. That's exploitation. So now you vanish, quietly, powerfully. You fade like mist in the morning sun and let them sit in the void they once ignored. This is your exit. Clean, final, permanent. Sometimes ghosting is how you teach people. Your silence has value. You're not Netflix. You're not a vending machine of comfort. You're a whole person with boundaries, emotions, and limits. And when people refuse to respect those, you don't scream. You disappear. That's not passive aggression. It's emotional intelligence. The mature ones understand. The toxic ones get mad. Let them. They were never upset about losing you. They're just upset they lost control over the access to you. And now, the doors are closed, locked, gone. Ghosting isn't selfish, it's self-care. You can't keep pouring into people who poke holes in your cup. You can't keep showing up for those who only see your presence as convenience. You're allowed to retreat, to protect your space, to vanish from conversations that only lead to pain. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. The people who truly love you won't need explanations. They'll already feel the shift. And the ones who hurt you? Let them feel your distance. Let them talk, let them wonder. You've given them enough of your light. Now it's time to protect what's left. There's something sacred about going silent, about choosing not to reply, about seeing the message, feeling the urge to respond, and still choosing you. That is power. Ghosting is not about ghosting the world. It's about ghosting the chaos, the inconsistency, the fake loyalty. You're not afraid of confrontation. You're just done with conversations that go nowhere. You're reclaiming your voice by refusing to let it echo into voids. The silence, that's your boundary now. It's not cold, it's clear. They had access and they lost it. That's not drama, that's growth. When you ghost, you start hearing things again. Your own breath, your own thoughts, your intuition. You remember how peace sounds, how freedom feels? You stop wondering if they'll text back. You stop hoping for clarity that never arrives. Ghosting clears the fog. You start to see who really mattered and who just made noise. You start to feel again, the world gets quieter and somehow more alive. Because for the first time, you're not living for someone else's attention. You're living for your own sanity, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is more sacred than that. You ever look back and realize the peace you feel now was the exact thing they were trying to prevent? Because your silence threatened them more than your voice ever could. Ghosting is the final proof that you're not who they thought you were. You're stronger, you're wiser. You're no longer begging for closure. Because you are the closure. You don't need the last word, you don't need to win. You just walk away and let your distance do the talking. That ghost they feel, that's the version of you they'll never have again. Let them haunt themselves. You've been haunted long enough by memories, by guilt, by what-ifs that kept you up at night. But now it's your turn to become untouchable, to be the one who slipped away, not with rage, but with power, with intention. Ghosting doesn't mean disappearing without reason. It means removing yourself from places where no reason was ever enough. You begged to be understood. You prayed to be valued. But now you see it. You were always worth more than they could handle. And that version of you, the healer, the forgiver, the one who stayed, is gone for good. They'll call it immature. They'll say you ran. They'll say you changed. And you'll nod because yes, you did. You chose change. You chose sanity over survival. You chose dignity over dysfunction. And if that makes you the villain in their story, let it. You don't need to be the hero in a narrative that never honored your soul. Ghosting isn't cowardice. It's a clean cut, a final stand. It says, I love me more than I fear your absence. And that is terrifying to people who depended on your brokenness. Let them fear it. Let them wonder. You've already moved on. So this is it, the final silence. The closing of the door. The ghost becomes legend. You don't owe them a reappearance. No closure text, no long goodbye, just peace. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong people. And now you know, now you're free. They'll scroll your messages, revisit your memories, try to feel the warmth you once gave so freely. But they won't find it. Because that warmth, that loyalty, that light, it's with you now. Guarded, protected, untouchable. Because when you finally ghost the world that broke you, you become the version of you that no one can ever touch again.